What's up guys, Justin here. Today I want to do a different kind of video. I want to analyze a city. I want to talk about Petersburg, Virginia. If you would like me to analyze more cities, let me know by hitting the like button. To determine whether or not the city is safe to live in, we will analyze the schools, jobs, crime, housing, activities, and how accessible places are. So let's begin, shall we? Let's start with schools. Petersburg has 3 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. Unfortunately, the high school has a less than stellar reputation. The elementary schools and middle schools I hear are okay at least. Walnut Hill and Cool Spring Elementary are accredited, while Lakemont Elementary, Vernon Johns Middle, and Petersburg High are accredited with only certain conditions. On the plus side, you have a selection of private schools to pick from. There's St. Joseph's School, which is kindergarten through 12th grade. Just know that you're looking at about a $7,450 price tag each year, at least according to their website. I also found Robert A. Lewis School, but there was no website, so I couldn't find much. So if you went to the school, please comment down below. Well, really, if you went to any of these schools, please comment down below. Overall, what do I think of the schools here? I'd say the public elementary schools are okay based on talking to parents of kids who went to them. Middle school might be okay, but if I raised kids here, I would absolutely send them to private school for high school. Next, let's talk about jobs. This is a bit rough. There were a lot of big businesses here at one point, but most have left. Philip Morris used to have a plant down here, but from my research, they left in the mid-1980s. Someone even told me there used to be a Dr. Pepper plant across the bridge connecting Petersburg to Colonial Heights, but that has been gone for a while as well. I do remember seeing a Pepsi bottling plant down Washington Street, but looking it up months ago it said it was permanently closed. I looked it up for this video and it seemed to imply that it was still active, but when I called the number it hung up on me immediately. So I would say it's no longer there. After driving past it again, it appears that there was possibly a Coca-Cola plant next door. It was obviously something related to Coca-Cola, so if you know, please let me know in the comment section down below. So what are there for jobs? Well, I would say to actually work here, there's plenty of mom and pop restaurants downtown. Some grocery chains such as Food Lion and even Walmart are here. But as far as working for a big corporation or firm at a non-entry level, you would likely have to go to a neighboring city or county for that. Unless you were in the army, there's Fort Lee, but that's of course if you're in the military. I was actually driving around recently and I remember seeing a Dominion Energy building there. There's a label scar here where the sign was. I actually ended up driving towards Dinwiddie and saw a brand new Dominion Energy building, so my guess is they just moved to a new location. Speaking of companies that were here, so Andrew's Grill had been there for pretty close to 50 years. And someone posted an old picture, and I'm pretty sure I'm seeing this right, but it looks like there used to be a JCPenney's in downtown Petersburg. There's actually a fair amount of things to do down here that most people would give it credit for. There's a lot of nice restaurants in Old Town, and a lot of those restaurants even have events or shows. My personal favorite restaurants down here are Maria's, Longstreet's, and of course Dixie Diner. If I happen to be available during their hours, it is. I have noticed a lot of younger people bringing businesses down here, such as breweries, which are attracting a younger crowd. Nisa Thai is a Thai restaurant from Richmond, and they actually opened up a second location down here, so they must have seen something about Old Town that would make it profitable. If you like antiques, there's plenty of antique shops down here as well. Here's a place I spent many hours as a child. My grandparents lived right off of here in what's called Central Park. Speaking of parks, if you're big into Civil War history, there's Pamplin Park and even Petersburg National Battlefield to check out. If you can't find too many things in Petersburg that interest you, Interstate 95 is nearby, which you can quickly take to Colonial Heights, which has a lot of shops and restaurants as well. And you can't forget about South Park Mall either. I timed it once from jumping on Interstate 95 with no traffic problems. I made it to South Park Mall in just around 6 minutes. Overall, there's definitely things to do here. Sure, it's no major city like Manhattan or Chicago in terms of things to do, but there's lots of things to do if you just go out and look. But I guess that would also be determined on what you consider activities. Being close to 95 makes things very easy and accessible in my opinion, so that's always a nice plus if you need to leave the city. Before we move on to the next topic, which will be crime, I want to go ahead and just show you some cool things around Old Town that I saw while walking around down here. I'm actually going to put timestamps for everything in the description, so if this is walking around Old Town doesn't interest you, there's always plenty of other things to jump around to. Now this here I've always thought was cool. So this is a house that's on top of a little stream down here. Now obviously because somebody's living here, I'm not going to show you the whole thing or even hint at to where this is. But I did want to show you at least where the stream runs underneath the porch, so I just thought that was really neat. This is always a hot topic when it comes to Petersburg. Crime. One from the Tri-Cities area might tell you that it seems like it's always Petersburg or Richmond you'll see on the news when it comes to crime. Truth of the matter is, there's crime everywhere. But of course some places have higher crime than others. A quick Google search told me that the crime rate is 38 per 1,000 residents, and a 1 in 26 chance of a property crime. In 2017, there was a total of 252 violent crimes reported. And from that year, the violent crime rate was 794 per 100,000 people. However, I want to say this, regardless of where you live, there's always ways to prevent crimes. Don't walk around by yourself at night, don't leave valuables in plain view of your car, and always lock your car in even your house, even when you're inside. Plus, I also think that people who get involved with things such as drug trafficking always become victims of crime themselves. Lie with dogs, you get fleas, as they say. And as I said, there's good parts of the city. Around Old Town isn't too bad. Of course, there are places in Petersburg you don't want to be, but you will know those places when you see them. Some have even tried to claim Petersburg is the most dangerous city in Virginia, but I have to respectfully disagree. I think certain parts of Richmond are far worse, and I've actually heard Danville is one of the worst cities in Virginia you could possibly live. Houses are rather affordable here compared to some neighboring counties such as Chesterfield and Glen Allen. The average price of a house I found was between $75,000 and $80,000. The most expensive I saw was $519,000, but it was a 4-bed, 2.5 bath, and it was pretty fixed up. Speaking of, if you don't mind fixing up a house, I saw a few for $49,000. It's what my grandparents did when they moved here in the early to mid-70s. When I moved here in 2016, I lived in the Mayton transfer lofts. They were about $850 a month with water included, and I just loved being right in Old Town and having a nice view of the city. Honestly, I'm getting nostalgia feels just talking about this. I just loved how these apartments looked with the brick and the wood together, and just how much room there was for what I was paying for. Okay, I swear, they did not sponsor this video, but I wanted to talk about housing, so here we go. Across the street we have the Bosco, which this place just looks really cool. Honestly, I love these more just because they're only about $100 more than Mayton, and they include all amenities, including internet and TV. The only reason I didn't move here is the fact that they allow cats and not dogs, and I had a dog at the time of moving to Petersburg. Bottom line, there's lots of cool options here as far as living, if a house is not what you're in the market for. While Petersburg certainly has its problems with schools and crime in certain areas, and even having to travel outside the city for jobs, I think the charm here heavily outweighs the bad. Who would I recommend this place to? Someone starting out, either a newlywed couple looking to get started, or I'd say a young college student. Before we close out the video, I wanted to show you something that gives me hopes for the city. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about this abandoned hotel, but I will talk about it. This has been here for years. I would wager probably since the 60s. This was a Ramada Inn and also went through several other ownership changes. The hotel finally called it quits after taking hurricane damage in 2011, which condemned the property. Now here's what I want to talk about. It looks like a new hotel will be built here soon. I hope this means more jobs will come back to the city, as well as maybe a reason for tourists to come visit. Whenever this place opens, let me know if you'd like me to do a review of this place, because I would absolutely love to stay here one night just to check it out. Until then, let me know what you think of the video. Do you live here? If so, what do you think? If you don't live here, then I maybe convince you to possibly move here. Let me know in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.